Hey everyone, this is the Kubeflow community meeting for the 10th of September 2024. Um, we've got a demo from some of the GSOC students or people. We've got some other community issues, and obviously we have the 1.9.1 and 10 release planning. So let's start with the 1.9.1. It looks like that thing has been done. So starting with the 1.9.1, obviously this is my pull request, but does anyone else want to talk about stuff?
Yeah, it's just to say that we're aware of the pull request. We are looking for people to test the PR and give some thoughts on the overall PR at some point. And while we work on this testing this PR, we're waiting on the Automelon training working groups to um, give us some updates on when they are planning to cut the releases. And there is platforms waiting for this pull request as well. So as for now, 191, our plan is to include an upgrade with Kubeflow pipelines. No version 2.3.0 was just released. There are some changes in notebooks, in Cat training operator, and some small changes in the manifest. Those are the planned changes that we're looking for releasing along with 191.
So what's the
And I
actual
believe this
timeline?
one is the biggest change.
So
Sorry.
just to be clear, so we just list out some of those things. But can I just get the timeline first? Because that will determine what other things we might push for the notebooks.
Yeah. We're planning to have this as soon as possible, but because this PR looks like a big change, um, and there are people that are taking vacations during this date. We're looking to have one-on-one, maybe end September or mid-October to have this release.
Yeah, that auth issue pretty much makes it impossible to use Kubeflow on EKS without it. Um, while it is a significant change, there was a significant change in 1.9 that kind of broke everything, if you know what I mean. Like, uh, it's still like the issue is just that like the example manifests were made for kind and were never tested on EKS or any other major distribution, you know. So that's why it happened. So this update obviously fixes that. But I'll just quickly explain what it is for people, just because I did make it. It's very simple. I don't want to go too far into it, but effectively, I won't go into details on how the auth works, but effectively, the way that Kubeflow does auth is that there is a SDO, which is a service mesh, is actually where the user is networking into the system. They will talk to one kind of gateway, and then that gateway does all the authorization. Previously, we were using an open source but not supported thing called OIDC auth service, which was made by Aricto. In 1.9, we moved to OAuth 2 proxy, which is pretty much the industry standard for that kind of thing. We also still use Dex. Dex is kind of like the user interface for logging in. OAuth 2 proxy is kind of like something that manages cookies, whereas Dex is like it's like, so if you will, it doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is that the change that was made was uh, previously the way that, so yeah, there was things happening that were kind of crazy with the 1.9 implementation. One is that these JWTs were just being verified everywhere. So if you installed Kubeflow in a cluster, it would break your other auth. The other big change that I've fixed is that now when you start an auth flow, you have to actually click a button. Because previously what was happening, and I've seen this issue when I was doing other projects like deploy KF, was that these cookies in the background were accumulating and just crashing people's browsers. Because if their cookie expired while they were open in Kubeflow, the browser would keep making requests and keep initializing auth flows, and eventually you just exceed the amount of cookies for the browser. So, so what happens is that's one problem. But the other big problem was that the way that Istio was set up to trust the not cookies, the JWTs, which are these tokens, was kind of wrong. It was just wrong. And you can read more about it here. I just wanted to highlight that for people. So if you have issues with 1.9, this a change, you should be able to use it from this branch and it should work. But yeah, okay. Anyone else got so anything else that needs to be happen for 1.9.1?
Not at this point. I think we're tracking each
Cool.
of the working group movements here.
So
So
like
just
late,
waiting for the biggest PR to get merged. Yeah, late September, mid October,
I'm still a
probably.
little bit worried about updating to a KFP version that's not been tested, but yeah, that's probably something else to discuss later.
So
Well, that's
Ricardo,
fine. It's just to say that the pipeline working group already released 2.3.0. So
Ricardo, I just want to like say to you, like we released the 1.8.1. So if you want to sing manifest, feel free to do so.
oh,
For training
thanks. Yeah, I'll make sure to have this manifest synced.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so 1.10 timeline. I think obviously we're thinking mid next year, I'm assuming. But
Yeah, we're trying to follow the same timeline for 1.8 that was released, I believe, February or March. So we're looking for maybe March. It's a better timeline for now. We're still waiting for people to volunteer for the remaining roles for the 110 release team. We're looking for people who could be the next release and product managers. So still looking for people to volunteer on that. For the rest of the release team members, they're still waiting to become members of the Kubeflow org. We're working to onboard them with some good first issues in their respective working groups. And in parallel to that, we started working on collecting roadmap items for each working group. Hopefully, most of them already have this tracker issue. We're just waiting for the Spark operator team to create their own tracker issue for 110. Overall, collecting the roadmap items looks great. It's just the need for more contributors to fulfill the remaining and the most important roles for the 110 release team. Yes, that's it.
so like, is the model registry going to be ready in at least an alpha form? Does anyone have any knowledge of that?
We're gonna work on the UI, but I'll leave to Mateo if Mateo's here to describe more about the changes. No, he's
Yeah,
not
let's
here.
not go into that right now. Let's give the GSOC demo a time to talk about it. But I just want to, we don't need to go through that today. But I just want to so like from my perspective, the notebooks working group will almost certainly have an alpha ready. The controller is ready now, but the UI is not ready. Similar to what you're saying with model registry. And the UI is kind of obviously
Awesome.
pretty important. Okay.
Yeah, I think to that point, let me ask you something. Do you plan to have both notebooks 1 and
Yes.
2.0 in the same distribution?
Yep, that's the
Like
goal.
in 110, we should have 1 and 2.0.
So the question as to what is enabled by default will be dependent on the distribution, obviously. The distribution can choose what they feel like. The example manifests will probably use 2.0 by default, just because it's really not meant for production use, the example manifests. But both will be available for distributions to use at the same time and for users to deploy both at the same time so they can migrate.
Okay. Yeah, that's important topic.
My thought process was that 110 originally was just going to default to 1.0 and have an optional 2.0, which still could be the case. And then 111 would have 2.0 by default and 1.0 disabled. And then 112, we will make changes that probably will break 1.0, if you know what I mean. But that was kind of my thought process. But yeah, we'll have to see. Okay, let's move on. So has anyone else got anything they need to talk about for 110 or anything else, headline features that other distribution working groups want to say? Like, is anything special happening in pipelines?
I think one other important topic, Francisco, maybe you can
Oh, Feast, you
help
mean?
me on that. Yeah, I believe Feast will also be part of the 110. But
Well, I mean, we
I'll
don't
leave
know
to
that they'll be
Francisco
part
to
of
talk.
Kubeflow until
Yeah,
like
that part's still under discussion.
yeah. That we don't that's unknown right now. But Feast definitely is a part of the long-term plan. Okay. Yeah, let's move on. So anyone else got anything? Anyone want to say anything? If not, then Andre, I'll hand it to you and your GSOC student.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Matthew.
Do you want to share your screen, one of you two?
Yeah, sure. You can just go ahead and share your screen. Yeah, I think if you're talking, you're on mute. We can't hear you right now.
Oh.
Yeah, sure. I think we can't hear you.
I just clicked the button to ask him to unmute, so hopefully he does.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry for that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Hi everyone. I'm Shao Wang. I'm a GSOC student, and my project is a push-based metric collection. And I completed this project under the guidance of Angie and Yuki and Jonu. Let's start my introduction to you. And first, I want to describe my contribution for the Kubeflow. During the GSOC period, I have 11 PRs to the Khatib and the training operator and the website, and I also have 2 PRs before the GSOC, and I have raised the 12 issues for the Kubeflow and also 2 code of reviews for others. And if you are interested in it, you can go to the Khatib website, Khatib issues to see about this. Next, I want to introduce the background of this project to you. Currently, the matrix collection is pro-based and the sidecar container based. You may ask, what is a sidecar container? The Kubeflow, Kubernetes, the official blog define sidecar container as a secondary containers that run along with the main application container within the same pod. These containers are used to enhance or to extend the functionality of the primary app container by providing additional services or functionality such as logging, monitoring, security, or data synchronization without directly altering the primary application code. And the life cycle of the current experience is like this. We first create an experiment, and the experiment will create a child, and the child will create a job or pilot job. The last 3 type is defined by the training operator, and this will create a training pod, child worker pod, and before that, the mutated webhook will inject a sidecar container to the pod. Is this matrix collector? It is used to collect metrics from the training container, and the training container writes the metrics into the std out or to the some files, log files, or TF event, and the metrics collector will script the metrics from the training container in a certain frequency, and it will push the metrics to the persistent API, and finally to the CatibDB. And at the same time, child controller will get observation logs from the CatibDB periodically, and it will finally update the metrics in the child and display it to the user or data scientists. But it has some drawbacks. First, it has some design problems, such as to define the frequency to script the metrics. It's hard to say which frequency is best, and it's a bit complex, and it has also some performance issues, such as the sidecar container will cause some resource overhead, such as CPU and memory, and it will waste some CPU cycles or memory ratio. And it also have some environment restrictions. For example, in the current life cycle, we must support the matrix collector, and also known as static containers, and it also needs to support the admission webhook. And some cloud vendors does not allow admission webhook. It's drawbacks. So we introduce push-based metric collection, and it has a similar life cycle as a pull-based metric collection. First, create an experiment, and then create a trial, and create a job, title job, and other jobs, other types of job. And what's different is here, there no longer have a webhook. It means that we no longer have a webhook to inject that container to the worker pod. And we only have one training container in a pod now. And the training container in this training code will call the report metrics interface, and it will report the metrics directly to the persistent API from the training container. And then similarly, the child controller will collect metrics from the persistent API and update the status to the child, and users can see it and get its results. And we can see that this interface is very simple. We just need to pass a type of a dictionary type metrics to the report, and I will show you some examples after a while. And I also have some user story for different users. For DevOps engineers, they may care about the design problem, such as the frequency to script the metrics, and some performance issue, such as the resource overhead caused by the sidecar containers, and also some environment restrictions. They must consider this. And for data scientists, the good news is that we no longer need to care about the format of metrics. Before, we need to carefully write the information in the print or logging. This example is very simple, but in some complex symbols, you may have multiple metrics you want to calculate. You need to be very carefully, and it's error prone. But now you only need to pass a dictionary type to the report metrics, and it's more neat and yeah, simple, and is robust. Yeah. And I will show you some demos to let me do it. I use an example in the Katiba examples. And in this demo, we will need to create a training script for a CNN model. This is the most simple CNN model for recognizing handwritten digits using this data set. And I convert this notebook code into a Python script, and I will show you the difference between this. And this is a push-based metrics collection, and we only need to specify the report metrics and some metrics you want to collect. But in the current pull-based metric collection, you need to print these metrics in the std out and let the sidecar containers to collect it, but it no longer need it anymore. We just need to define a neat report metrics interface here. Let me run it for you. All the components for the Katiba is ready now. And you can say we create a canvas, say this suggestion container, and it may take for about 10 minutes. So let me share a past a past example for this. We create this, and we train the same model here, and we can see the result. Yeah, it's right, and it's have no difference with the pool-based matrix collection. Yeah. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, is anyone got any questions they want to ask? Or Andre, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I think it was great. Thank you so much, Xiao, for your work. I think this is amazing. So we've done like a significant amount of work during this summer, as Xiao shared, and I think we will include these features in the next release of KDIP, which will be 0.18. Yeah, but this actually a long ask feature from our users. I think like maybe like 4 to 5 years they're asking us to do so, because the major problem is for some trials the sidecar just won't work. Like when you define the ARG workflow or Tecton pipeline as a trial, sometimes it's just not possible for us to reliably attach a sidecar. And basically, we right now have functionality to run, give much more flexibility for our users, right? Especially this will be useful for early stopping, because early stopping also will require for us to analyze metrics during the algorithm experiment run, which also helps us to not have this hacky way how we actually analyze the metrics. So this is great. Any questions from the community maybe for the demo?
Yeah, we'll give like one question probably. We've got time.
Yeah.
If not, then type your questions in the chat, and then I'm sure that the person who sorry, I forgot your name, Xiao, can answer them. Awesome. So I'm gonna take the screen sharing over again. Thank you for your presentation. Okay. So okay, the Matera, we probably don't need to speak to it, but just I agree that it would be nice if we could turn the main Kubeflow channel into a brand channel. So does anyone on this call know who currently has access to the Kubeflow, not community, but Kubeflow YouTube channel?
So
Matteo?
the point, Matthew, is that from what I understand, also so there we had some help from James. The thing is that James is not a channel admin, so cannot extend the authorization. So speaking with James, I've recorded this issue so that hopefully we keep track of it. So the problem will be that we need somebody, either of the two, James, if they can kind of like help us to identify some of the admins so that they can extend.
They should be able to see the admin if they go to the correct page.
We can follow maybe offline in the same, because also I've tried for example, on the Kubeflow community, I tried myself to check who is the kind of like the other admins, and I couldn't find a page that I can attach a screenshot, but we can definitely
Yeah, so I
follow.
think the problem is that YouTube channels, when they get converted to brand accounts, have a so actually there's two possibilities. Do you know whether there is, so presumably this channel is a brand account right now. Is it currently a brand account? Meaning that it doesn't have a login, username, and password for this channel specifically.
Potentially.
If it is, then you have to look at the Google like auth page or whatever. There's like another separate page for it. You know what I mean? Like but if not, then obviously it would be hilarious if we had to go through the recovery process to get access to the channel. But presumably someone at Google has admin on it. I'm imagining it must be Taya, right? It has to be Taya. Like the one of the open source leads at Google who used to work on Kubeflow. If we should reach out to her if not. Because she'll know. She'll definitely know, I'd say. If it also, I guess, could be broken and assigned to one of the old Google employee accounts from like anyway, okay, we'll just come back to that later. So if someone knows or has an idea of what we could do there, that would be great, because it would be nice for the community to get access. Okay. So there is some big updates from me on the website. Rui, what do you want to talk about here? Sorry, we'll go back to you first before. What is this?
Yeah, hi, Matthew. So 2 weeks ago, Josh showed some interest when I mentioned that TrustCI was planning on implementing guardrails, about how they were actually architected. So it's just a 5-minute presentation about
Okay,
how
I mean,
TrustCI.
yeah, sure, that's fine. I guess you can do that now if you want. Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So let me try to do that. All right. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. So hi, everyone, and thanks for the chance of talking about this. So this is a really quick presentation on how TrustCI is planning on implementing 2 new features. One of them is LM Eval, and the other one is guardrails. So for ML Eval, the whole idea is to be able to benchmark and evaluate language model performance. And to do that, we encapsulate a very well-known project, which is the LM Evaluation Harness. And we do it by deploying what we call an LM Eval job CR, which specifies the models and the specific tasks for evaluation. And we store the metrics and benchmarks in a specified storage. So LM Eval consists of hundreds of available tasks. Obviously, it's not feasible to run all of them. So these tasks are selected when we specify the CR. And it has the following components. So we have a controller, which manages the deployments. We have a job, which encapsulates the actual evaluation harness and provides a REST API for the harness tasks. And we have a driver, which actually translates the requests we do from the CR, which tasks we want to run, which models we want to use, into the job's REST API. And then it manages what to do with the evaluation results. So basically, when we deploy an LM eval job, we are creating a driver and a job. We have a storage, and then we have our inference services or our models. And if you look inside the LM eval itself, we are encapsulating LM evaluation harness into a REST service. The requests from the CR are translated into the specific CLI invocations which are needed for the LM evaluation harness. And then once we get the information from the inference services, the metrics we want to calculate, those are sent back to the driver, which will then store in whatever fashion you want, as a log stream, in a PVC. So that's up to the user. So this basically, in a nutshell, is how LM evaluation is planned to work on TrustCI. And now going to the topic that was raised 2 weeks ago, which is guardrails. So for guardrails, we obviously need a different approach. So overall, the experience overview is that we might receive user input. We want to validate if that input is acceptable, if the workflow can proceed. We want to pass that input if it's acceptable to the generative model. We want to validate it, the response from the generative model, and we want to pass the validated output back to the user. Now, this output will be enriched with some metadata, so it will include any kind of valuation metrics that were found, which were the metrics that were validated, the thresholds that were used, and where they occurred. And again, just looking back at the components for the architecture, we have a Kubernetes controller to manage the deployments. We have an orchestrator. And basically, the orchestrator works as both a router and a manager of the workflow, if we look at the end-to-end workflow from the input to the output. And then we have the concept of chunkers, which prepare the inputs or the intermediate outputs we get from the LLM to the validators. And we have the detectors themselves, which identify if either the input or the output text contains any violation. So overall, the user experience would be to deploy the LLM. If the detectors are models, then we just deploy the models into the serving runtimes. The same thing for the chunkers. We apply the guardrails CRT, which in this the CR, sorry, which in this case specifies all the desired detectors and all the desired chunkers. And then we use the orchestrator endpoints to organize the workflow rather than doing the inference directly to the LLM. Now, the whole idea of specifying the chunkers and the detectors into the orchestrator, into the CR, is that the whole long-term plan is to be able to have pluggable community detectors and chunkers. So that'll be, we have domain-specific detectors that could be used for certain guardrails workflows, and those could be pluggable into our guardrails workflow. So in the end, we could have detectors for PII, we could have detectors for harmful language, we could have detectors for very specific tasks, or basically any kind of imaginable task. And that's basically it. So it was just a 5-minute, very short talk about how we're planning to architect TrustCI, since that was brought up 2 weeks ago. So that's all for me. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for the presentation. So what is the involvement with Kubeflow that you're asking for?
Well, there's no specific request for involvement. I think this falls into the generic remit of, or the discussion of whether of the path of TrustCI and where TrustCI might be into Kubeflow. So in that sense, we're just keeping the community informed of any developments that happen inside TrustCI.
Andre? Yep.
Yeah, thanks for the great presentation, Rui. So I'm just like wondering in terms of this agents and how can you explain a little bit how do you run them? Like, is it just a sidecar, so some sort of pipeline that you run within the LLM inference or training? How do you detect it?
How do the detectors work? Was that a question?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So the detectors for the initial tests that we did for this architecture, the detectors could be, for instance, a classifier. So they could be an LM classifier, right? So it would be something that could just detect certain harmful language, and it would output metadata locating where the violation happened and what was the violation. Now, the whole idea would be to have some kind of common schema for the violations to be reported between the LLM and or the detectors and the orchestrator. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you provide like an SDK for those classifiers? Like where we can see them?
We're planning on putting them upstream on TrustCI on the repository. So we already have the orchestrator there. And our next step is to actually start putting examples of chunkers and detectors. So I mean, the first part could be very soon on the TrustCI upstream organization. Yeah.
And these classifiers, I guess they are, not framework agnostic, right? So you kind of like maybe using Torch, right, or High in Face right now to attach those classifiers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, do you specialize on Torch right now? Like, is it only for PyTorch models?
I think that the initial models are from Torch, yeah, but I don't see any reason to restrict to that. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. Thanks for that. So, any other questions? Or we probably should. Let's move on. Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen again. This one. Okay. So there's one ridiculously huge update to the old versions of the website that we've mostly got ready now. I think everyone is mostly happy with it. So there is a lot of PRs, but effectively what it's doing is solving two major problems. One is that the old websites are still being indexed by Google and often being surfaced above the main website. So someone will search for an issue and they'll get the 0.5 docs from 5 years ago, which is not great. So the thing that this does is it tells Google once it reindexes the pages that it shouldn't be indexing these pages by adding a little metadata flag to all of them. Obviously, that meant having to get all the odd ones to build. So that's just something to be aware of. I think the only discussions that are left to have is just there's two factors. One is that these will have to be merged manually by org admins because the owners' files are not aligned to master, meaning that the owners are from people who are no longer part of Kubeflow. So just for reference, someone will have to. I've also added the owners' updates to all of these as well, just for reference. So this won't be a problem in the future, but not that we need to update old versions of Kubeflow docs very often. The one remaining thing, Andre, and I want to get your opinion on it, is that I think we should be deleting the 1.9 branch and just not using it for now and just only recutting it once we're about to release docs for 1.10 that are specific to 1.10. So that's what Kubernetes does. which is that they haven't cut the 131 branch yet for their docs.
Yeah, but that would be the problem for us because some of the components, they don't follow the Kubeflow release schedule, right? Or you're talking
That's
about
not-
only the
No,
master?
no, no. All I'm
Right.
saying is like, so right now when you go to kubeflow.org, this is obviously master, right? But if you go here, there is actually a 1.9. So
Yeah.
either the two options, at very minimum, if we keep this branch, we need to like as much as it might be a little bit confusing to users because it's a bit weird, this warning needs to be here. Because, and I'm also kind of just against it, this branch being here at all, just because like the 1.9 docs are the master docs, you know? Like,
No, but this
it's-
is not true, right?
well, right now it is.
1.9 docs is 1.9 branch docs.
I understand, but what I'm saying is that's what's technically happening, but the actual content is out of date because the master docs actually contain the 1.9 information.
No, but if master doc contains 1.9 information, we should cherry pick those PRs on 1.9 branch.
You could do that. I think so. That's one option. We don't really have a process to do that right now. And a lot of the docs, there has been some pretty substantial PRs that would probably merge conflict into this old one.
Yeah, but I mean, the problem is like, we still need to do that for the short term because
In
we
any
don't have
case, this warning needs to be here. All I'm saying is that one way or another, this needs to be here because it needs to be, users can fall onto these pages without realizing that they're not on the master version. Like, it's not saying like, it's saying that you are viewing the docs for this. It doesn't say it's bad. It's just saying this is a snapshot of the docs for 1.9. And it does say that it was from the time of the 1.9 release because that's true for every other version. But if that's like
So if
up
I
until
remember
this point, yeah.
correctly, yeah. So like if I remember correctly, previously we've been cherry picking some of the PRs on the website. Maybe I'm wrong, but
Not recently. Like it's maybe 3 or 4 years ago we did that, but we really haven't done that recently.
yeah, no, not recently, but we don't do a lot of updates recently on the website at all, right? I mean, like for example, this PR, right? This PR has been cherry picked by AWS in 2023, right? So
Sure. But yeah, like this was also because previously we were always putting these warnings on as soon as we released the docs, but we stopped doing that for some reason. So as part of this upgrade that fixes these other issues, we have also enabled these warnings on all the old versions just because it's a good idea to do it.
So I think, so from my personal perspective, I think we should enable this banner for all other branches and discuss the 1.9 branch, because this will unblock this banner
I mean,
for
personally, I mean, we can merge every other one. That's fine. I want to get these merged because it will take months for them to propagate through Google Cache anyway. The only other thing is that, is James on the call? Either of them? If not, then, so there is some DNS issues that need to be fixed, for the very, very old branches. These CNAME records need to be changed, because they're actually not being hosted on our Nintelify, the very old ones. And so while the PRs do create the branches, they're not actually being reflected in the website. So it will temporarily cause an SSL issue, but Netelify will fix that by provisioning a new certificate almost immediately. So, yeah. And even if it doesn't, I really don't care. These docs are very, very old and they only are here for historical reasons. Okay, I just wanted to highlight that. So, the 1.9 though, my proposal is that we actually just delete the 1.9 branch for now.
I mean, I just want to hear feedback from the community on this. I mean, because we haven't been discussed how we want to show docs to the user, but I feel that, because the problem that I see right now, if we just delete the 1.9 branch and if we do any changes to master, user might think that these changes actually will be on the 1.9 branch, but this is not true because we directly commit everything to the master, right? I don't want to confuse users, right, with incorrect information on the website.
No, but when are we? What I'm saying is there's no 1.10 yet. So anything that's being updated in the master branch is going to be for 1.9 for now.
No, but this is not true. Right?
I don't know if that's
Yeah.
the reasoning. My understanding is that everything that's happening after 1.9 is now future work,
Yeah.
not 1.9.
But a lot of the docs updates are not related to features. They're like improvements to the docs. Oh, there's like a typo here. There's like a like there's, oh, this page is confusing. We're going to split it into two, you know? Like, for example, this still uses the old pipelines structure. Well, not, it's actually, no, it uses somewhat the new pipeline structure, but it's missing out on some very significant pipeline docs updates. And obviously it's less of a problem once they're not on Google search results, you know, because most users are just going to be on master anyway, you know, they're going to end up here. So my proposal is two things. One is that I don't like, we have to leave this banner if we're going to have 1.9 docs cut separately, just because users may not realize they're on the 1.9 docs otherwise. The other factor is that with the wording we can discuss, but because we don't want to have to go back and update the wording again, I don't know. Anyway, okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is that if someone does add to master a feature that is not available in the 1.9 things, I suggest that we start using some kind of tag system, kind of like Kubernetes does. So like kubernetes.io, if you go to, I don't know, like autoscale it or something.
I think the difference is between us and Kubernetes, we release, yes, independently, right? From the Kubeflow releases, right? Because
But that's
we can...
the same idea, right? Maybe you should use the version of your internal app here then.
Yeah,
Not like,
this
you know
would be
what I mean?
so I think we should ask Stefano and other folks who've been involved in this to give their opinion. But I can give specific examples why I don't want to delete 1.9 branch from the training perspective, for example. So, like, for example, like we in 1.9, we didn't deprecate MX job, like MXNet support, Apache MXNet. But right now we just delete it from the master because we don't support it in the latest changes. We just completely remove these APIs. So right now, when the user actually go to 1.9, they will see this doc. But when they go to the master branch, they won't see this, right? And we don't want to confuse users, right? Because in the 1.9, they still can use Apache MXNet. But in the master, actually, they can't see this, right? So I feel there will be more issues that we directly, more features or, you know, other things that we commit directly to the master, which is not available in 1.9.
So just for reference, there is actually something interesting that Kubernetes does, is that they have these releases branch. So like that's the Kubernetes website. Whoops. They have, I need the website. They have dev branches as well, which they use for future things, if you know what I mean. So like they have release and dev. So like the actual release branch, that's like, so their main, if you will, is they haven't cut a 131 yet, you see? There's no 131. But even though 131 is the current version on here, see? But they do have a 131 dev, which they're adding changes to for future things like you're talking about. Because, you know, there's no, like, depending on how you're viewing it, I agree that there's version alignment problems, but like we haven't released a version without those features yet that you're talking about. You have released, but not Kubeflow.
Yeah, but when I say I have released, our docs is located in the kubeflow.org. So our users who not use Kubeflow distribution and want to use the latest version of training operator, they will see docs on the Kubeflow website.
So then that's the
problem,
perfect
right?
use case to have this kind of flag being like Katib X, but like you need at least Katib X to use this, or deprecated in Katib Y. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think it's like these features are not available in the Kubeflow releases, right? These features only available in the standalone application releases, right?
Is it?
Yes, for example, because you will release Kubeflow in, I mean, I don't know, maybe in February, right? And we will release training operator, you know, maybe in 2 months. So we want our users to use these features, right? When we release them and not wait until February.
Sure. That's what I'm saying though. Like, rather than saying Kubernetes 123 or Kubeflow 1, whatever, instead just when you add a feature or deprecate a feature, because like just removing, I'm always a big opponent of removing docs. I prefer to have deprecated kind of warnings, right? Like the goal should be that the master branch gives enough information that they don't have to go to the old versions, unless they're trying to look at very historical stuff. Like all I'm
So
saying is, yeah, like
yeah.
the 1.9 branch itself is separate from what I'm proposing you do here. Like I'm just saying that like master can be enough for most people, and then what we should do is take a snapshot of the docs at the time before we start merging the 1.10 in this case. Like so 1.9 branch should have been created just before we started merging features that were very specific to 1.10. And of course, like you're saying, if you're going to merge things early, that's fine too. But you should just add a flag which says you need at least this version of the thing. And then what we can do is in that template, we can make a JSON blob or whatever that automatically links people to like a table view of what versions of each component are in each version of Kubeflow. You know, I was thinking we could put it under the releases section.
Yeah, but it's still, I mean, okay, but it still will not solve the problem that's if we release something that Kubeflow is not available in like, half a year. Because
that's fine though, because then it will encourage people to distributions or even to offer the new version, maybe. I'm not sure, but
yeah. So anyway, I think it's, again, from my perspective, 1.9 is longer discussion. I want to hear, Helber, Stefano, the other folks who've been involved, their opinion.
Either way, Google does need to be blocked from 1.9 branch as well for the same reason, because these indexes never go away once they're indexed. Like, yeah, because we're competing with our own website right now in the search results. It causes a lot of problems. So I mean, all I'm saying is we need to block from Google, and we need to have a header of some kind that says you're not currently looking at the latest docs.
Any other?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Sorry.
Any other thoughts from the community on this topic?
Well, I don't know. My personal opinion here is that there's so many things we could change in terms of website changes, and I don't believe this could be one of the things. I would say it's top priority. It like just my feeling on having any website changes, that it's just insanely hard to have like a prompt change in the website, right? So handling multiple branches are also a pain, especially if we start separating to dev and final branches for each release. I don't know. I think we should have a broader discussion on that, because my feeling is that such changes will just adding more work to the docs lead for each release team member. And also, I don't believe there's much value on that. Sorry.
We're not proposing to do that split, to be clear. The thing we're proposing is just for the current state, we need to kind of clean up the fact that the 1.9 branch likely isn't going to get updates as we fix the docs 1.9 in master.
Yeah, but I think at this point, everything that goes on master does not belong on 1.9 anymore. It's just part of a feature work that will be 1.10, 1.11 else.
We don't really document new features though. We often just improve the docs. All I'm saying is I just want new users to not look at the old branches unless they have to for some reason. And so as a result of that, Andre's raised a very good point, which is that specific apps might want to release new features before Kubeflow, or remove features before Kubeflow releases 1.10. And so I really think that we should establish a blob thing that looks like Kubernetes, but maybe a little bit more specific to Kubeflow. So it should say, this feature under this section was deprecated in Katib 1. whatever. And then when you click on it, it will link you to a overview releases page, which lists the versions in each version of Kubeflow.
Right. Let me bring the pipelines case. We just released 2.3.0, right? I think because we are going over a release for 1.9.1, I believe it matters if we to have 230 added to the 191 release. But when we have only pipelines releasing frequently until they get a final release for 110, I would say maybe they are planning to have 280 for 110. So everything from 230 to 380 does not really belong to any release. So with that said, adding new features to a new version should be just independent and just should not affect master or any of the release branches.
But if it's not documented, like users do use those new versions of KFP.
Yeah, and that's my understanding when I joined Kubeflow community, that every working group does any component does independent releases. So what happens to a specific component should not affect the whole release at all.
Yeah, but like what I'm saying is we have this doc site. Users, if they look on the doc site and see a feature, and they're on the latest version of Kubeflow from their perspective, they will expect it to be there. If it is not there, that is a bad experience.
I understand, but I believe we should separate it into two problems here. Having each working group adding new features and how they document that, which can be or cannot be in the Kubeflow website as well. It can be just a README in their own repo, and to how to have the website up to date with everything in each of these releases. Because what belongs to 1.9 should only belong to 1.9, should not affect the older releases. And master for me is just a development branch where we're working on future work that's going to be part of the next release. That's my reasoning with when I see master and the release branches, and that's how it's documented in the release handbook. So
that's just not the reality.
We are
Master
going to propose
is
every other change. We need to have a broader discussion.
All I'm saying is that while you may think of master as unreleased for code, that's just not what it is in this particular case. Master is kubeflow.org, and that means that that is the place where users are seeing the docs. Like if we want a development branch, we can make one, but we don't have one right now. Like we could have a future branch, if you will, or next. You know?
Okay, I think at this point I agree with you. We should have a dev branch because every change we do in Kubeflow does it instantly, and it makes that wrong sense for users that this is already bundled in one of the current releases. But not having a release branch with the latest version, I don't know if that's the way we should go.
Andre, what do you think about having a dev branch? I'm kind of not sure.
So again, this will be a little really hard because again, we have a different type of problem compared to Kubernetes. Like every component in Kubeflow released separately. Some of the components don't even like looking for Kubeflow releases. So I think we should, as Ricardo said, I think we should separate these problems. We should first of all probably add the binary and disable this indexing all other branches and 1.9. And then we should, because this is longer discussion, how we should encourage working group leads, all the components, all of the, contributors to place their docs here. Because I also know that, for example, Stefano was thinking about moving the components doc to their GitHub repos, right? And having the Kubeflow work some sort of aggregation of multiple websites. So there are a couple of, things we can consider here. I just don't want to.
That's a really bad idea, personally. Two reasons. One is that Google SEO really does matter, and the GitHubs, and also GitHubs are not good places for docs, just because their READMEs are not. You can't do things like this. You can't.
Yeah, but I think so. It doesn't matter how it looks like. It matters like if user understands. So what is the reason of the docs, right? To get like so the users actually will have a clear understanding of what we're doing, right? For every component, it doesn't matter. I mean, as long as users will like it, we can structure wherever like it works for us, right?
I can tell you it won't work if you try and take them off. People will struggle to find the docs for various reasons.
So anyway, I think Matthew, as you said, I think this is longer discussion, and we should do this as a separate topic.
Yeah. In any case, like all I want to say is like we can definitely merge all of the old ones. I think the 1.9 we should still merge it. I think just because right now we're not actually planning to cherry pick things into the old branch. I mean, look at this. Even the 1.9 release isn't even on the 1.9 branch, you know? Like, okay. Other than that, so when do you think you'll be able to merge those old PRs?
So I will be on vacation. Can we just ask James or other folks from steering committee to merge these PRs? So we can ask Yuan.
If you can ping them, yeah, I mean, James Wu said he would do it. If you ping him on here and say to do it, then I'm sure he'll do it.
Okay.
And just say like merge these ones. You can say don't merge the 1.9 if you want, but I still think it's worth merging just because I want to stop those coming up on Google. Like if you type, you know, Kubeflow 1.9 into Google, you're going to, at least sometimes, like you don't in this particular case, but as like if I type 1.8, I'm going to get 1.8 docs. Yeah, see 1.8, right? This is actually the docs from 1.8 and things like that. Yeah, anyway. So if you ping him and say merge these ones, and then I can get them to fix the CNAME records, because these ones these 4 first ones won't actually update until we fix those CNAME records. But yep. Other than that, obviously there is still this version info. We've got 1 or 2 minutes over time, but so I still want to have these discussed by the steering committee. So once that happens, this version thing. Anyway, cool. And then obviously the README updates. We should merge this. Okay. Anyone else got anything they want to say? If not, thanks for coming. Anyone? Hi, saying hi? No? Going once, going twice. Okay, thanks guys. I'm gonna stop the recording.